Today I'd like to do a short video about a do-it-yourself underquilt for a hammock. I have a Warbonnet, just a regular Warbonnet hammock that is the double ply underneath, so I can put a sleeping pad in it if I needed to. But with the cost of underquilts now going as high as some of the different sleeping bags and some of the quilts, and upwards of $300 or so, I decided to try to see if I could figure out a cheaper way to have an underquilt that I could use for hiking. So here's what I did. I went with this Bed Bath & Beyond down blanket. I think they also sell them at Costco and other different stores, but essentially they're a down blanket that a lot of people use for different purposes related to hiking. Some people will simply use them as a quilt for warmer weather. But what I decided to do was take this blanket, fold it in half, and then sew the sides and create a baffle at the first baffle mark, and put a sew stitch all the way down here to create a baffle for this cordage, and then sew the other side the same way with a baffle sewn on each side so that the cordage will stay together, and then sew a small area across the top so that this cord could stay in place. Now, did it work? I would say I've been very pleased with it, because I did a section hike on the AT somewhere between Damascus and Roan Mountain, and the temperatures got down to about 19, 20, 21 degrees. I wasn't exactly sure. And this underquilt, using this Bed Bath & Beyond down blanket, kept me warm. Now, I will say I did have to keep all my clothes on that night, my puffy jacket, everything on, and I had to also put one of those Ridgeline or Ridgecrest pads in between the two layers of my Warbonnet hammock. But this hammock with this underquilt kept me fairly warm enough, down to 20 degrees. Now you may say, well, that doesn't sound right. Well, I somehow made it, but it wasn't that bad. But I would say anywhere in 30-degree range, I was fine. And the reason I think it was is because I've doubled the down by folding the blanket over, and it gave me enough to create a wide enough width with the underquilt to cover underneath me. All I did was, I think I got this cordage with a line lock, not a line lock, but a cinch cord from Gossamer Gear, and they sent me a good amount of cordage. I cut it to the length to run horizontal through the underquilt, and then I simply use the locks to cinch it however tight I want to, or however loose I want to here. But I also have the cordage coming through around the hammock and cinch it up to here. I've had no issues so far with the Ridgeline creating any problems with the mesh so far. But I usually keep this not so tight because I don't want it to rip anything related to the no-seam mesh on top. But I was able to do this for a grand total of approximately $16. Now, how did I do that? Well, Bed Bath & Beyond had one of those coupons where you get $10 off. I think this down blanket was $20 and the $10 off, so it was $10. And then the next thing I paid for was the cordage, the stretch cordage that can give a good bit. From Gossamer Gear. I think this was about $5 or $6 for that set. And then, fortunately, I have a mother who was a home ec teacher, or home economics teacher for 30 years, who is a great person for sewing things. So I gave her the idea, and she was able to sew down horizontal across the stitch to create this baffle opening after I folded it in half. And then I ran the cordage through here. Then she was able to also, with one baffle open on each side, create another stitch across the bottom and top to create two different adjustment points for the underquilt, just like you would if you had to buy one that's $200. That being said, I'm very happy with my underquilt as it stands. Will I purchase one of the nice ones from Hammock Gear or Enlighten Equipment or Warbonnet maybe later? But for the price, for 20 bucks or $15, $16, you can't beat it if you're trying to purchase a hammock. And like I have the Warbonnet Superfly with doors, which costs an arm and a leg. Not really, but it's not inexpensive. So with that cost, I wanted to do something cheaper to just create this warmth. Because I remember 16 years ago, the first time I went in a hammock, I had just an Eno hammock and thought, oh, it'll be fine just with my sleeping bag. But then I realized very quickly that first night that without an underquilt, you're gonna get cold, because that, I guess it's convection, if that's the right word, comes up and it will get you cold underneath without some kind of thermal trapping of the heat underneath you. With that being said, that is my idea for a DIY, do-it-yourself underquilt for a hammock. Thank you.